Dawn leaks across the pasture, and I stand on the porch pretending I don't feel the cold. My mother, Magnolia Voss to the county, mama to the boy I was, walks to the gate with the battered suitcase I've known all my life, straps cracked, and corners scuffed to bone. It looks too heavy for her. I tell myself that means I'm right. She's stubborn and finally moving on. Clementine leans against the post, arms folded like a verdict. Business over sentiment, she said last night, voice warm as a quilt, sharp as a needle. Your father meant this place for you. She keeps us small. She listed buyers I'd refused and hands I kept because Mama said a bad winter doesn't make a bad M&AT the gate. Mama pauses. She doesn't look at my face. She looks at the boards under my boots, the spot where I've stood through drought and harvest, and I feel measured. Be well, Sterling, she says, steady as stovetop steam. Don't forget to oil the windmill. We'll manage, Clementine answers, a smile just short of kind that I wait for relief to arrive like a wagon. It doesn't. What comes instead is a cold satisfaction, the kind a banker feels sliding a ledger shut. This is adulthood, I tell myself. This is leadership. Mama could have signed her share to me years ago. She held that signature like a last coin, and I'm done begging for it. The suitcase knocks the post, and she steadies it. For a second I think she'll turn back, ask for help, crack the stalemate we called peace. She doesn't. She lifts, adjusts, and keeps moving with that quiet, practical grace that fixed calves and fences in me after the barbed wire. Pride keeps her back straight. Whatever that case carries, it isn't my concern anymore. See? Clementine breathes. It's done. Sunlight finds the silver in Mama's hair and turns it to wire. Her dress is plain, her shoes wrong for miles, but she walks like a person choosing distance, not suffering it. I picture the contents, papers she won't hand over, brittle keepsakes, and tell myself the weight proves she's leaving with nothing I need. When the latch snaps, the yard sounds too big. A ranch ought to swell to meet a man when he removes an obstacle. Instead, the air lies flat, and the dust on the road hasn't decided to rise. Clementine wants me to mark the moment, kiss her, laugh, say about time. I don't. I watch. The strip of pale road between the cottonwoods. She'll come back hungry, Clementine says, honey gone, steel showing. Or she'll send a note. Either way, you decide how generous to be. I nod like a man who agrees. Inside something small closes a fist. Mama moves quiet when she means business, quiet hands and a hush that fills a room. Watching her back shrink into mourning, I feel the odd stillness you get before a storm on a spotless sky, but I made the choice. I let the gate swing and didn't. Call out. Business over blood. A ranch is fences and payroll and winter feed. That's what I tell myself while I count numbers I don't quite trust and pretend the day has begun the way I need that IT will take me until sundown to see the truth. The walk I watched wasn't defeat. It was the start of something. Only I had no idea whose. By noon I'm in my father's study with the windows latched against a testing wind. The desk smells of pipe ash and lemon oil. I straighten his ledger and folded spectacles. Habit, and open the drawer I never opened. A letter lies on the green. Felt. Thick paper. Red wax stamped with a magnolia blossom like Mama pressed into biscuits. I break the seal. The pop is small. The shift inside me isn't. Her handwriting is the measured hand that labeled medicine and seed sacks. Plain, patient, exact. Sterling. It begins the no scolding, no plea. Just facts laid out like sutures. Our father died without a will, and probate left the ranch to his surviving spouse, her, pending any later arrangement. No later arrangement exists. She has maintained the place as owner, not helper, because that is what the law demands. One line sits by itself. Not you. 15 years I've walked through this room and called it mine. I signed feed tickets, hired men, praised and cursed the weather as if I'd earned the right, because everyone acted like I had it, and I never checked. I told myself her name stayed on papers because widows like busy work. Those stories wilt beside ink. Footsteps in the hall. Clementine enters, bracelets whispering. She sees the wax, the paper, my face. What's that? A letter. I hand it over before I start lying for sport. She reads faster than I breathe. Color drains. This can't be right, she says lower. Your father said, my father said plenty with his posture. I answer. Not with his pen. She reaches for the ledger as if it might change the letters on the page. I knew every figure in those books, but I never asked who paid the tax line. Mama did. She always did. The facts hang, heavy and cooling. Clementine rallies. So we formalize it. Bring her to town. Draw papers. Make official what's already true. What's true? I say, tasting iron, is I asked her to sign and she walked away with a suitcase. An empty suitcase, she says too quick, then looks at the window, counting possibilities in the glare that I think of the first. Winter after father died. Me sleeping by the stove, Mama tucking the blanket without waking me. I see her at the clerk's window while I talk to a drover, shoulders squared, purse opening that I could burn this letter and live another year inside the story I prefer. Instead, I fold it twice and set it back like evidence at a trial I didn't. No, it started. Doubt comes in and sits. It's polite. It isn't leaving. Clementine takes my arm, wedding ring cool. This changes nothing essential. We proceed. We secure what is ours. Ours hits wrong. For the first time since dawn, I say 3 words to myself. I don't know. I don't know what the law will say. I don't know what Mama plans. I don't know who I've been, son trying, or usurper in good boots. I do know this. I'm done confusing comfort with truth that I pocket the letter. We'll re-examine everything. I tell the room. The wind finds the latch and rattles it, as if the house nods yes. Boone Carter shows up while the afternoon leans toward heat, hat brim low and a leather satchel in his fist. He doesn't ask for water. He steps onto the porch with the assurance of a man who measures words by the ounce and bills by the pound. Mr. Maddox. Mrs. Maddox, he says, voice cold as a pump handle. I'm here at Magnolia Voss's instruction. Clementine arranges hospitality on her face. You must be parched. He sets the satchel on the rail, unbuckles, and draws a folder. Thick as stew. Receipts. Deeds. Tax stubs. Insurance renewals. Stamped. Signed. Recorded. He stacks neat piles and lets the paper make its own argument. She asked me to deliver copies, he says. Originals are lodged secure. He taps one stack. Mortgage payments, past 4 years, from Magnolia Voss's personal account. Before that, cashier's checks to the same effect. Taxes remitted timely. Insurance kept continuous. Numbers and dates slide under my ribs like spokes finding a hub. My mind tries to argue and ends up counting. March, June, November. Her script wherever a line required a name. Clementine lifts a stub as if it might bite. And if she paid, she says, bright, it was for the household. From love. A mother's small help. Mrs. Maddox, Carter, says, the sums are not small, nor is the help. Absent those payments, the note would have been called 3 winters ago. The company made allowances so long as Magnolia remained party to policy and deed. Their allowances have concluded. He sets down a second paper addressed to me in that meticulous hand. As of today, he reads, Mrs. Voss withdraws her practical support. She will not impede reasonable operations. She will not subsidize them. Further dealings should be directed to me. Clementine laughs, a small, stunned sound. She wouldn't. She did, he says. She has for many years and chooses not to now. The porch boards creak. I remember winters I called lean and springs I called luck. A check when the sick bull went down. Me thanking Providence while Mama poured coffee and kept her counsel. What do you want me to do? I ask, because men like Boone Carter translate the world into steps that he closes the satchel. Acknowledge receipt. Review your position. Make arrangements according to your means. 6 days from today, several obligations ripen. Without payment, consequences proceed. 6 days. I repeat, as if the syllables might turn to rope. Clementine recovers. We intend to fight. To challenge. Ma'am, he says. You may intend whatever you please. I advise you to intend arithmetic. He touches his brim and leaves the way he came that we stand in the doorway holding papers that rearrange our past in real time. Clementine's jaw goes brittle. Kindness sprouts corners. Mine goes quiet in a way that feels like waking. The support is gone. The story goes with it. The clock, newly audible, has always been ticking. I just never press my ear to the wood. Inside, the study window rattles. I set the folder beside my father's spectacles and say, all right. What a man does with 6 days tells you who he is. I'm done letting other people define my name. We spread papers on the kitchen table like a bad hand. Tax stubs, insurance notices, A bank letter with a number that looks harmless until you say it aloud. $837 due by Friday. Clementine slides a butter knife between piles, as if slicing debt thinner will make it chewable. Cattle, she says. Push 20 head through Olson's by Wednesday. At drought prices? I trace figures in the cuts my mother wore into the wood. We clear 160 if they don't dock for weight. We'll fight, she says, softer than breath. I open the strongbox. 2 5s, 3 10s, 1s, coins. $62 and some shame. 6 days already feel like 5.5. The kitchen never lied. Measure true. Feed due, farrier owed. Ramirez's boy promised back wages after pneumonia weeks. Pay the bank and someone else doesn't eat. Don't pay and none of us do. Wheel. Tell the clerk there's a discrepancy. Clementine says to keep silence from showing teeth. Say the mail lost a notice. Stall. Magnolia stalled them. I say. We're out of stalls. She wanted this power, she snaps. She could fix it in an instant. She did, I answer. For years. The windmill ticks. I stack notices by order of screaming and circle Friday. I list assets like a man listing virtues at his own trial. 2 teams, lean. A cream separator. If you sweet talk it. A spare saddle with a stitch loose. Sell the Winchester, Clementine says. It's worth something. It was my father's. He's not here. I am, I say. It wouldn't fetch enough to matter. We need a plan that doesn't involve apologizing to a woman who wants to humiliate us. Mama never wanted that. She wanted the books to balance and the calves to stand. I take the red wax letter from my pocket and read until the words stop dancing. The clock ticks. I picture the teller turning the sign to closed and our lives becoming something else at 5. I picture Mama on the road with that suitcase I chose to see as empty. I'm going to Silver Creek. I say. Why? Because that's where you draw a line under a number. Uncle Thomas sits high and quiet. If she's thinking, she's near him. You'd leave me here? With this. I'd bring you, but you don't want to talk to her. You want to win. I can't win by treating her like an enemy. Walk out to beg, she says. And don't expect me to forget what it cost. It'll cost more if I don't. I say, and pull the latch before second thoughts climb on. I saddle the bay. Pocket check, $62. The letter, the pocket knife Mama gave me when I was 10. I tie the strongbox shut with twine. Empty looks wrong with the lid gaping. From the porch, Clementine says, we'll fight. One more time. It reaches. Me like habit. I nudge the bay onto the road. 5.5 days to Friday. $837 to keep a gate from swinging shut. I ride toward Silver Creek because the only thing worse than a reckoning is failing to attend it. What a man does with 6 days tells you who he is. I intend to find out before everyone else does. The road to Silver Creek runs through pasture that used to feel like my back pocket. At the fork by the bare signpost, I take the left toward the station where news moves on wire. Old Pete is on an upturned crate, jaw working tobacco, patient as a post. He runs the scale and the stories. Afternoon, Sterling. Pete, your mama came through early, he says, mild as dust. Asked on the Silver Creek coach, then paid Cal Dugan for a private rig. Cal don't hitch for less than double. She say where? He tips his chin at the telegraph door. Sent a wire first. Short. Clerk kept his oath, but she knew the address by heart. Thomas on the hill, I reckon. Uncle Thomas, my father's brother without the affection. They quit speaking long ago. Seat and a trunk, Pete adds. Paid. With new mint silver. She carried that old suitcase like it weighed exactly what she wanted. Silver in her fist. A wire to Thomas. Speed bought without blinking. The picture of keepsakes in that case won't hold. How far ahead? They left when the shade touched this crate, he says. You can catch him if your bay remembers you at 19. I buy oats and turn the bay to a long trot. Dusk. Meets me halfway. The road starts speaking in stones. At the ford, the first water the horse and count days. 5 to Friday if I don't waste a morning. Fresh wheel ruts cut deep on the far bank. Cal drives like a paid promise, and I push on. Night. Folds over the grate. At a bend I know by scar, a steady amber shows through branches. Thomas's careful light. His house sits square and modest. Porch arranged for decisions. I rein below the last turn and listen. One horse in the paddock. Cal's team blowing easy. At the rail, a man's low voice, Thomas, and another answering softer. The life I built out of assumptions gives a little underweight that I should ride up and knock like a son. I don't. I tie in the dark and walk, sudden shy as a trespasser. Through the dining window, lamplight, a satchel open on the table, papers held by a smooth river rock I know by feel, that battered suitcase patient as a dog. Magnolia sits straight-backed, hands around a cup that doesn't steam. She looks like a woman who built a bridge out of days and now waits to see who can cross it. I think of every time I called a lean season luck when a check arrived without a lecture. My ignorance has been expensive. Somebody financed it at terms I never read. I'm not scared of money. I'm scared of what it proves that I don't bang the door for $837 and a receipt. I came because she wired a man my father taught me to distrust, paid for speed with silver, and left me a lesson you carry in the bone that I circle to the porch, heart steadying into a hammer. My knuckles lift, then I hear my name inside, my mother's voice, level with a decision already made, and I know the next miles aren't dirt. They're words, and I'll have to ride them honest or not at all. I don't knock. I listen. He'll come. Uncle Thomas says, slow as a whetstone. Pride can learn. He's a man, Mama answers. A man must choose with his eyes open. I rap once and step in before courage changes its mind. Ink and cold coffee. Magnolia looks at me the way a river looks at a fallen branch. Measuring, not pleading. Sterling, she says. Sit. The suitcase is open, bundled notes, envelopes fat with edges. Beside it, typed forms, blue ink signatures, assay reports. A cloth sack spills new mint silver into her palm. Kin to the coin she paid Cal with. Thomas smooths a map. A creek stitched with X's. Claims recorded under Voss and Cooper, he says. 3 years production at modest draw. Mama pushes. Bank statements over. 3 towns and 1 city. Totals like fence posts. Then a penciled sum that knocks the breath from me. 1.4 million, Thomas reads. No pride, no apology. Whether you had this, I say, while I called the bank patient. I had work, she says, and my name on the note until I removed it. Both were true. Anger rises, hot and young. You let me strut in rooms I didn't own. I let you learn to walk in them, she says, and the gentleness bites deeper than scorn. A place can't be handed to a man who hasn't met its weight. Thomas's gaze is a level. Your wife speaks of outlasting the widow. She does arithmetic with your surname. Heat crawls my neck. You spoke to Clementine? I listened. Mama says. The mantel clock picks its way through silence. I look at the money, then at Mama's hands. Work strong, unadorned, steady. What do you want? I ask, because money always has a condition. Not rescue, she says. A decision. She slides a paper forward. Plain words. I renounce any plan to sell the ranch. Accept stewardship of wages owed and debts honestly incurred. Deny Clementine any authority over stock, land, or payroll. Consent to live as if this money did not exist until our people are made whole. If you sign, Thomas says, Magnolia funds Friday and nothing more for a season. You run clean under her eye. Fail 1 term, and the mines go to a trust for the hands. And if I don't, you may keep your pride, Mama says. And your wife. And whatever the bank leaves. My name waits on a blank line. I see Ramirez's. Boy in his father's hat. Pete on his crate measuring truth. Clementine at the window counting angles. You're making me choose between my marriage and between your marriage, she says, and your character. The room holds like a barn in a storm. I take the pen. Something inside finally goes still. Friday, I say. I'll bring wages first. Then I'll bring the other proof. And what's that? Thomas asks. The keys, I say to. A house I'll be living in alone. Mama closes her eyes once. When they open, there's no triumph. Only relief and a readiness to stand. Then sign. She says that I sign. The ink dries fast, as if it's been waiting. I got back under a sky like cooled iron. The house threw warm squares on the yard. The welcome in them wasn't for me. Clementine met me on the porch with a smile she used to close bargains. Well, she said. She'll sign? We wait her. Out. She's not waiting, I said. And I'm done calling patience a plan. At the table, I laid 1 paper. The terms I'd signed. She read 3 lines and laughed the way glass cracks. You let her put a leash on you. I took one off, I said. Wages at sunup. Bank after. Then I go to Thomas's, and we run clean. Under her eye, she said, the mask slipping. Or you could take the money, nod along, and move it quiet. 6 months, and the old woman's visiting a grave while you hold the deed. For years I'd loved her for being clever where I was plain. Clever had turned corrosive, and I'd called it strategy because she said it soft. No, I said. You'd throw me away for her? I'm keeping myself. I said that I set the small trunk on the bed and folded her dresses. Packed her comb, her mirror wrapped in one of my shirts. Pete'll sell you a ticket, I said. $50 is yours. No one will say I sent you empty. You'll regret this. I already have. I'm done adding. Dusk pressed at the windows. 2 hands by the pump looked anywhere but at us. News moves without feet. I carried the trunk to the wagon. Clementine walked beside me, chin high, eyes bright with the kind of fire that burns barns, not bread. It Pete's. The station smelled of oil and penny candy. He read the ledger of us in a blink. Ticket to where? He asked her. Anywhere a week makes different, she said. Silver Creek, he said, and slid a form that I laid down bills. Room over Mrs. Talley's bakery. Pete added to the air. Clean. She minds her own. Clementine took the ticket like a verdict. At the coach step, she put her hand on the post where men tip their hats. For a second I saw the girl she'd been. Fast, hungry, sure the world is a game you win if you never apologize. Then she climbed into the lamplit mouth of the coach and was gone. The bell rang. Wills complained. I let the quiet settle where wanting used to be. You all right, Sterling? Pete asked. No, I said. Better than that. Back at the ranch, I walked the fence in the last light and counted posts like prayers. In the kitchen, I stacked envelopes. Wages first, the bank's note second, Ramirez on top because I know what pneumonia costs. I set my father's keys on the table and wrote a note to Mama in a hand that finally matched my voice. Friday, we make it right. After that, I'll take what work you set and do it without excuses. When the house went dark, it went honest. I barred the door to keep no one out but the man I had been. The deadline I kept wasn't the bank's, it was mine. By choosing before night, I left no room for morning to take it back. Friday came up yellow and hard. I set Ramirez's envelope in his palm first. Back wages, and a little more for the week's pneumonia stole. We're square, I said. The men lined the porch rail. I paid each what the ledger owed and what conscience added. Names, amounts. ANOD'd 18 noon, I put $837 on the bank counter. The clerk counted slow, then faster. You're current, he said. I asked for a receipt. He stamped it hard enough to echo. Dusk found the yard quiet. I took my father's keys off the hook and laid them on the table. I wrote a 2-line note and saddled the bay. Thomas's hill wore lamplight. Magnolia stood in the doorway. Friday, she asked. Paid, I said. Wages, then bank. I bought Clementine a ticket. She nodded once. Inside, Thomas unrolled maps. We turned the table that had held proof against me into a desk for work. Magnolia set the plan plain as fence. 3 months of strict accounts. No stock moved without. 2 signatures, a share for the hands, so their sweat shows where it matters. I repeated each term to hear myself agree. We're not saved by money, she said. We're saved by what we refuse to sell. I slept in the small room off the kitchen where Thunder once sent me. Morning smelled of coffee and saddle soap. Work doesn't forgive, but it meets you halfway if you stop lying. Weeks moved like cattle through a narrow gate. I sold 1 bull I liked and 3 heifers I loved because keeping them cost men meals. I paid cash for wire. Ramirez's boy came back. His cough was a joke. At month's end, Thomas tapped a small black number and said, Air. News of Clementine arrived like weather. Postmark Cheyenne. Rumor of a desk by windows that see trains. I wrote none back. 3 months on. The ranch feels smaller in the right way. You can see what needs doing from anywhere. Magnolia and I ride the north fence at sundown. Sometimes she tells a story about father. Sometimes the quiet carries it that we don't live rich. We live right. The mines hum like a far creek we sip from only when the work demands it. I make mistakes and correct them before dark. At night, I lock the office out of habit, not fear that if there's an inheritance, it isn't a deed or a dollar. It's a woman walking away with a suitcase heavy with choices, waiting to see whether I'd carry my share. I couldn't then. I can. Now. On Thomas's porch, the hills hold the last light. Magnolia touches my arm. You look like your father when you've got a good answer, she says. I don't, I tell her. But I'm better at good questions. We go inside to balance the day. It isn't wealth that steadies me. It's the work, done simply, rightly, beside the woman who taught me what it costs and why it's worth it.